3 months ago, most of us thought both Wisconsin and Nebraska would be playing meaningful football in November. And I guess you can say Wisconsin still is, since they need one more win to make a bowl game, and their West Division title hopes are still alive if they can finish 7-5. But none of us thought this would be a showdown between two interim head coaches who are both playing for pride and the future, since Mickey expects to be back on this staff in some capacity, and Jim Leonard's the favorite to get promoted at the end of this year. We're bound to see some sloppy football in the freezing cold on Saturday, but this one still has a rivalry feel to it, and neither of these teams are backing down. So today, I'm giving you my preview and prediction for this game against Wisconsin, and we'll talk about how Nebraska can pull off the upset. But what's up, guys? I'm Connor Hayden, and this is Corn Crazed. If you're a fan of Nebraska or the Big Ten, make sure you're subscribed and hit that button below so that you don't miss any of the content I drop this offseason. And if you think Nebraska can win this week, hit the like button now to help us get to 1,000. But now, let's get into it.
Yet across midfield. Touchdown, Nebraska! Omar Manning!
This week's presser with Mickey was one of the more interesting ones he's done so far. We learned that Chuba's done for the season with an ankle sprain and that he's going to have surgery on that soon. Logan's been the expected starter, but his backup's not Heinrich Haarberg or Matt Masker. It's not even Richard Torres. Walk-on redshirt freshman Jarrett Sinek will back up Logan this week, and all we know about him is that at Hastings, he threw for over 5,500 yards and was one of the top QB recruits in the state. He played quite a bit in the spring game, and he had passing and rushing touchdowns. He's pretty similar in terms of size and speed to Logan. I just don't know how well he'd perform in his first game action coming against Wisconsin if it came down to it. Tonight, Mickey spoke on Sports Nightly and basically said that Casey Thompson's probable, so I'm not sure if we're going to get the same Casey we saw play against Purdue or if we're working with a limited version, but honestly, anything we get out of him gives me way more confidence in the offense. Mickey also mentioned that he doesn't expect Trey Palmer to walk for senior day, which means he's planning to come back next year, which would be huge. And Garrett Nelson said he won't walk either. I did a live stream Q&A for 2 hours last night where I talked more about those guys and what their return means. And if you didn't get a chance to check that one out, I'll link that up in the top right corner so you can watch that after we're done here. When you look at this matchup over the last 10 years, Wisconsin only lost once, and that was in Lincoln in 2012 before going on an 8-game win streak. We've seen some blowouts, but in 2015, 2016, and last year, Nebraska was alive till the final play. History tells us that Wisconsin is just a rough matchup because they're so physical and strong on the line, but this team's by far the worst and the most inconsistent that they've been since going 8-6 in 2012. So if there was ever a year to hope for an upset, this is the one. I'll be at the game this weekend with my mom, my sister, and a couple friends, so I'm hoping for a better showing than that OU one I went to in September. But either way, at least I'm going to meet some of you guys. So I'll be outside the stadium at the Legacy statue for 20 minutes after the game's over. So if you've been asking me to meet up, that's going to be a great time to do it. And I'll post on Discord and Instagram once I make other plans, but I know I'll definitely be out in Omaha on Thursday night, so if you want to connect then, I'm going to be at a bar for a couple hours. I just haven't figured out which one yet. And I made sure to get caught up on and send out all the latest merch orders today, so anything you buy from now until Sunday won't get shipped out until I'm back home next Monday. And the promo code to get 25% off your entire order on the site is GBR. So just go to corncraze.com. You can get your merch, enter GBR, and then you'll get a pretty good discount. Wisconsin's had a bad go at it this year. They lost to Washington State and Illinois at home, which in hindsight aren't terrible losses considering both those teams could finish with 8 or 9 wins, but they're both rebuilding and Chris was in year 8, so that's unacceptable. There were other factors that played into the separation that was much more mutual than the Alberts and Frost breakup, but they ended up promoting DC Jim Leonard, and the general consensus is that he's going to be their next head coach. Leonard's 3-2 with losses at Iowa and at Michigan State, who have two of the worst offenses in the Big Ten, so that old school Wisconsin defense isn't what it used to be. They're still a top 15 D nationally, but if you take away their non-Power 5 wins over New Mexico and Illinois State, they're giving up 25 points a game. They're ranked 13th in Red Zone D and only give up scores 75% of the time compared to Nebraska, who lets teams score 90% of the time when they're in the red zone. But still, they're hit or miss. They're 1-4 on the road with their one win coming against Northwestern, and the common theme on the road is they're more prone to turnovers and they're giving up a lot more yards through the air. The run D's ranked 16th nationally, but like Purdue, Ohio State, and Illinois showed, if you can establish the pass, run lanes are going to open up. Even though this isn't your typical dominant Wisconsin D, they're still going to give Nebraska problems. But with Casey playing, Whipple's offense has a chance. Before Casey went out against a really strong Illinois D, he had 7 completions for 172 yards. These Big Ten West defenses are built to stop the run, so getting a QB back who can push the ball downfield to Vokalek, Palmer, or Washington gives a Nebraska offense that's been essentially dead for 3 weeks a chance to get back to scoring at least 4 times a game. I'm not expecting the offense to light it up and put more than 21 or 24 on the board Saturday, but they don't have to. They just have to sustain drives, get points, and keep their own D off the field long enough to let them rest. The Wisconsin offense hasn't lived up to expectations with such a beast running back and a QB in his 3rd year. They rank 54th in rushing and 105th in passing, but Braylon Allen's weekly 100-yard games aren't enough to pull out wins consistently. Bill Bush's D's been held back by an offense that can't move the ball, but this week should be different. Think back to the first half of the Minnesota game. Tanner Morgan missed a lot of throws, run plays with Ibrahim were predictable, and the defense tackled well enough to limit the explosive play. Graham Mertz is like Tanner Morgan. He's a game manager at best with a great running back, but that running back can't do it alone. The difference was Minnesota had a second option at quarterback, and Casey Thompson not playing just meant more opportunities for Minnesota to force punts. Miles Farmer returns this week. Ernest Hausman and Javen Wright showed flashes against Michigan that they're making strides and ready to contribute more, and the defense as a whole has shut down offenses similar to this one. I won't give you Nebraska's rankings because I don't think that's a fair representation of where the defense is actually at. The lack of production with the backup QBs left them on the field longer than they should have been out there for 3 weeks in a row, and we're getting an entirely different product for not just the first half, but for all 4 quarters with a healthy quarterback. I dropped a poll for subscribers a bit ago, and over 60% of you picked Nebraska to cover 11.5 this weekend. So let's talk about where that spread started and what it's moved to now. Wisconsin opened as a 13.5 point favorite, and that's already dropped down to 10.5 in the 3 hours since Mickey announced that Casey's likely coming back. Purdue and Minnesota were both 14-point favorites, and Nebraska kept those games within 1 score. So why would we expect that this one's going to be any different? Well, technically, Nebraska's season's over. They've got nothing left to play for. There's no bowl game, no division title, and Wisconsin's still in line to achieve both. They're motivated and pissed off coming off a loss at Iowa. But so is Nebraska. They just lost to Michigan by a lot. Mickey has these guys locked in, and even though Trey Palmer's been unproductive these last 3 weeks, he gets his starting QB back, and I'd expect we see him back at midseason form. Even without an efficient offense, I don't trust Wisconsin to win by more than 7, and now knowing Whipple's playbook's opening back up, Saturday could literally go either way. The over set to 39.5, but in a cold weather game where teams usually like to run the ball and burn clock as much as possible, it's too unpredictable and I'm not going to touch that. But if you do want to bet on that or any of the other games this weekend, you can make a free account at brothrow.com/GBR as long as you're 18 plus and you live in any of the 50 states since it's available legally everywhere. You don't have to make a deposit and you get paid for your wins via Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or any of the other payment services they accept. And most important of all, you don't pay the vig, so it's cheaper to bet on Brothrow than any sportsbook you've used before. I picked up $135 on some action last night with Ohio, and since it's a peer-to-peer betting site, I bet a subscriber who challenged me for some merch, but his NIU pick failed him and I ended up having another winning day. Once you join our group, hit the chat and let me know your favorite picks for this weekend, because I'm starting to notice that some of the members in our Brothrow group have better picks than I do. On paper, Wisconsin's better than Nebraska is, but they're so inconsistent, they can lose to anybody. Jim Leonard will have his guys fired up and ready to go beat up on a lowly team who just got routed in the big house. But Mickey won't let his guys quit when they've got 2 winnable games left. Wisconsin wins if they force turnovers and have a short field because they score over 80% of the time they're in the red zone. Their offense is built to play in cold weather, and even though Bill Bush knows how to stop their attack, He doesn't have the front 7 personnel to line up for 4 quarters straight and force Mertz to throw. Nebraska wins if they can start with the lead. They had the lead against Minnesota, and they gave it back because Chuba couldn't get in rhythm. Casey won't have that problem. If the offense can move the ball and force a Purdue-style shootout, Wisconsin O is going to stall out with inaccurate throws after they fail to run it 90% of the time. And Nebraska's special teams almost blocked another punt last week, and although we've seen losses in this game because the kickoff team gave up long scores, I guess it's more likely we see a big special teams play go to the home team. The offense has been one-dimensional for 3 weeks now, but that's changing Saturday, and the frustrated receiving corps finally gets their key to success back in the lineup with them. The D's playing as well as we can ask for given the circumstances, and Michigan's the last team we'll see go for over 250 on the ground this year. I still have my doubts and expect Casey to only be at 80%, but that's enough to keep this one tight going into the fourth quarter for a 4 to 7 point win either way. I'm taking Wisconsin to win 20-17 because they're playing with so much more on the line, but I truly do believe this has upset written all over it. So I'm already on the plus 13, and I got the money line at plus 350. So I'm not telling you they're going to win, but this is another favorable matchup in the Big Ten West gauntlet of a schedule. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comments below. Is Casey ready to lead this team to their first win since Rutgers, or do you think he's in game manager mode? Will Whipple be able to call a good game from the press box, or is his new seat going to limit his ability to communicate with his players? And do you think the crowd is showing up strong for Senior Day, or have Nebraska fans all but checked out until Trev's big announcement? My flight's in 8 hours, so I got to get out of here, but I cannot wait to meet a few of you guys this weekend. With all that said, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Big Red.